Hello and welcome to another episode of the Media Reformed podcast, Seeking Truth in an Ocean of Messages. I'm Quentin Knowles. It's been a little while since I've had an update on the podcast. I've been quite busy over the last month. My fiance and I just bought a house and we've been busy moving things in, so I haven't really had the time or the inspiration, I guess, more so the inspiration to record another episode of the podcast for a while. That doesn't mean that I've stopped writing, though. I still have quite a few blog posts that I've written. In fact, February was actually quite the prolific month for me, so you can go check out those blog posts at mediareformed.wordpress.com. Today I'll be reading a blog post that I wrote about a year and a half ago on the song I Am a Rock by Simon Garfunkel, and my own experiences with it and how it helped to shape and convict me. So, I hope you enjoy. I've been a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel since I discovered their music in my senior year of high school via the movie The Graduate, and to this day they remain one of my favorite artists of all time. Their mellow folk rock sound, tight vocal harmonies, and engaging lyrics, courtesy of Paul Simon, create a sound that no one else has quite captured. Songs like Sound of Silence, Mrs. Robinson, and Bridge Over Troubled Water have earned their place among the most well-renowned pieces of popular music from the 1960s, with many others standing out as classics as well. One song that, while usually featured on greatest hits compilations, doesn't get as much recognition as others alongside it, is I Am a Rock. Released in 1965 on their Sounds of Silence album, it covers the typical sound of a more upbeat Simon & Garfunkel number with a driving beat and major key chord progression that keeps the overall sonic vibe fairly light and breezy. Admittedly, from a musical perspective, it's not one of their songs that stuck out to me nearly as much as others, with songs like Flowers Never Bend with the Rainfall and Homeward Bound outdoing it with a similar sound. The lyrics, however, tend to stick with me much more, and the first few times I heard the song, they even made me uncomfortable enough to convict me about my own life. The song is written from the perspective of a bitter recluse who has cut himself off from all contact and attachment to others. He's built figurative walls for himself, a fortress deep and mighty, to protect himself from the friendship and love which he disdains. He prefers his books and poetry to human interaction, creating of these an armor to shield himself. I am a rock, I am an island, he defiantly declares in the chorus, stating his need for independence over reliance on others. Why does he desire such seclusion? Why does he seek to be alone? The song ends on the melancholy answer, a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. While most of the song carries a very ironic tongue-in-cheek tone in describing this man's insistence on isolation, this last line carries with it a much more somber revelation in my ears. This man hides himself from people to hide from the pain and sadness that comes from relationships. He tries to content himself with mere contentment, fearing the bitter negativity that could come if he tried to seek more. As I said before, I first started seriously listening to Simon & Garfunkel in my senior year of high school, which was the start of a period of wandering in my personal life. I imagine it's like this for a lot of people with major life events like high school graduation, the start of college, and the pursuit of a career taking place at this formative time in life. But in my own experience, it was also a time of questioning my faith and wondering if I truly believed what I thought I believed for my whole life. I had doubts, and my doubts made me so ashamed in front of my family and friends, who all seemed so strong and devoted in their faith, that I hid my questions and concerns within myself. This, in turn, led me to become, to some degree, like the man described in I Am a Rock. I preferred not to get too close to anyone, even my girlfriend at the time, and other friends I'd known and trusted for years, lest these insecurities be exposed and brought to the light. I even ran from God in my relative isolation. I never stopped going to church or reading the Bible or praying, but these habits became routine and half-hearted. Instead, I opted to retreat into media, spending time by myself watching movies and listening to music to escape from the realities I was afraid to confront. I think this is a big reason why this song became so uncomfortable to me whenever I heard it. It describes a state of mind and of heart that I knew was wrong, but which I was entering into anyway. It called me out for living selfishly and cutting off the most important relationships in my life, and I think that even then God was using it to convict me of the patterns into which my heart was becoming set. This would eventually lead to a revitalization of my faith and my friendships when I discovered just how lonely I really was, no matter how much I tried to hide it from myself. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. Proverbs 18:1. God didn't create us to live on our own. There are indeed times when it is good to be alone for personal reflection and prayer, a habit which our Lord himself kept diligently in his time on earth. But to be completely isolated from others, as the proverb says, goes against sound judgment and is, at its root, motivated by selfishness. There are introverts and there are extroverts, and both need a balance between being alone and living in community with others. Faith is a personal journey which each person must walk on their own 2 feet. But we also walk alongside others who move in the same direction and give us assistance. This is why the writer of Hebrews exhorts us to consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, but encouraging one another. I'm thankful for the people God has put in my life, and for the journey I had to go through to realize how important community is. We need each other as we seek to know and glorify God more and more. No man is an island. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Media Reformed podcast. As I said, you can check out my blog at mediareformed.wordpress.com. And until next time, keep seeking.